Welcome to Third Eye Champagne. I'm Kirsten, Langston, author and intuitive. Yes, I have a guest today. Andre from Astrology Alert is here. Hello, Andre, and welcome. I'm very happy to have you here.
Hello and hi everyone. Yep,
I
here
love
I
your
am.
backgrounds. Your backgrounds are always so peaceful.
I try to make up for everything I see in the news every day, that sends me into a rage. Watching watching Trump outside the courtroom and wondering how, any government system allows that kind of crap, to happen. It's incredible that he can
I,
say those things and oh, a First Amendment, and
yeah,
he's saying the judge is working for the Democrats. I mean, it's incredible that he can't sanction that.
right. Well, it's funny to me is he's on his social media talking about this, the clerk and the judge says, look, I don't want you talking about my staff on your social media, period. And Trump sort of takes offense to it, like, well, what do you mean I can't talk about yours? Like,
Yeah, but the judge can't say, if I hear you mention my name, I'll put you in jail for 30 days. You going outside the court in the middle of a trial and making public statements that I'm working for the Democrats. That's, come on, First Amendment. I mean, go further and say that I'm a murderer, make up anything. This is Trump's thing. He just makes it up,
I know,
So, but
and
it's
gets
very
away with
damaging
it.
because yeah, exactly. So, anyways, that's the reason for the peaceful backgrounds to level it out.
I like it. I like it. So we are
Yeah.
talking, we have a few things that I want to nerd out astrology wise here with Andre today. The first
Mm.
thing, so this is my bizarre passion. My bizarre passion is weird stuff. I like aliens, I like Bigfoot, I like Loch Ness Monster, I like all that kind of weird stuff. But what's interesting
Mm.
to me, just as we have Pluto, I would love you to, because people probably don't know what's going on with Pluto moving around, and it's a big deal. So, but what's interesting to me is we have Pluto moving signs, and kind of as Pluto's doing this back and forth from Capricorn to Aquarius, all of a sudden the United States government is like, hey, let's hold hearings on aliens. And I know Aquarius is kind of the weird sign. I don't know if it's the alien sign, but I know it's a weird, it's kind of the, strange sign, if you will. Every Aquarian I know is a weirdo.
Mm.
But but is there anything astrologically speaking to why they would do this now? And is it just kind of a red herring, do you feel like? Just personally, I'm just curious if they're just kind of trying to distract us from stuff, or what do you have? What do you have for us?
My sense of the talk on aliens is that I would wait to see where it settles in the next couple of years because to me it's either there's something to it and you could tie that to Pluto and Aquarius potentially you could. And it could also be that Neptune being in Pisces since 2011, what we've gotten is a lot more information, but a lot more disinformation or distractions. And there's no way to know without waiting for Neptune to get out of Pisces how much of that settles out. I think a lot of it will stop. A lot of the disinformation won't work anymore. And it's possible that aliens fall in that category, or it's possible that, then if they become part of the Pluto and Aquarius cycle, I mean, that's 20, it takes it to 2042. Then we're talking totally different dimension, right? But I have to be honest, I have not seen yet something to really convince me. I need evidence. I mean, the amazing thing to me is how much in this current environment people throw things out and like Trump, I have evidence. Where's the evidence?
Right.
Show us the evidence. I mean, it's like when you go to court, people say, well, if they do this to me, they can do it to you. No, they can't. If you don't do things, there won't be any evidence to convict you of something. Evidence is critical. So I'm ready to see tangible evidence, but I haven't yet, right? And if I do, then I'll be convinced about that particular topic. But it could show up, because we're in that. Neptune is getting out of Pisces completely. Really, it isn't until 26. I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
25 it gets out, but then it comes back. So you have to wait till the planet is fully out, and
Mm-hmm.
that's 2026, right? And by that point, Pluto's already in Aquarius, never to return. Or I mean, yeah, in Aquarius, it doesn't return to Capricorn because next year it does a very brief re-entry into Capricorn, even though it spends most of the year in Aquarius, right? So that's the unfortunate part. If you want quick answers, it takes time, for these cycles to develop, right?
So with Pluto in Capricorn, and I don't want to turn this into a massive astrology primer, but essentially Pluto's an outer planet, and my understanding is it sort of that's kind of affects society, whereas the personal planets are kind of us. So the outer
Yeah,
planets
well,
don't affect us personally as much when they, I mean, you know what I mean? Am I
mm,
making any sense? I haven't had enough caffeine this morning, so
yeah, no, well, okay, so both those things are true. Are okay. The way to put it is Pluto, yes, the sign it's in affects society writ large. So, for instance, Pluto in Capricorn enters in 2008, and there's this build up into fascism
Mhm.
throughout the entire planet, not just here. All of a sudden, it becomes attractive. The opposite sign in Cancer, that was in the 1930s. There was this rise of that, right? But if you want to see Pluto in your chart, if it finds a planet, you'll feel it. You'll
Mhm.
definitely feel it. Things like, for instance, moves really slow, right? So picture a chart, somebody's chart, and then Pluto is somewhere, and for it to go from, say, somewhere in the third house or something, and then get all the way to the seventh, that can take a long time. So, for instance, Bill Gates got divorced right as Pluto hit the marriage angle. I mean, like almost precise. Those are the astrological coincidences that aren't coincidences. That's why it works. So that's affecting him directly at that point. It's the correlation,
Got it.
and quite a few people in the political world and anything public where you see Pluto doing something, but Pluto is really slow, so it can be moving along, and if there's a swath in your chart where it's touching nothing, it's doing nothing. It's just in the background, but then it'll surface. And for instance, a person who is currently under heavy Pluto is Russell Brand. Why?
Mm,
Because Pluto rules the very thing that he's accused of. When you're
mm.
accused of overpowering someone, what did Pluto do in the mythology? He abducted Persephone and took her into the underground. That's what men do when Pluto comes by. Or rather, in this case, he's being called on it because
Mhm.
he had done it before, but it's when Pluto reaches a point in the chart where it becomes more public, more known, right?
Mm.
So it can do both. So this is where I always say to people, if you want to follow your astrology, you need to know your planetary degrees. Otherwise, you have no idea what's happening, right?
Right.
And the sun is the biggest, knowing the degree of your sun, but all the other ones can be involved as well. And really, in the end, I mean, it's 11 points. Anyone can memorize that, and then figure out a way to track where planets are. And you're focused on mainly planets from Jupiter outward because the other planets, they're too quick. They're
Right.
not going to, the Mercury, Venus, they go by, they trigger things, but they only trigger what the big planets are doing. So you
Mm.
have to track, a limited number of points, and that tells you a lot. And
Mm.
if Pluto is there, trust me, be careful because it's important. Yeah.
So Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, right? You said
Yes.
that, right? 2008. So what can we expect? Can you give us kind of, okay, this is what we were working with Pluto and Capricorn, obviously fascism. Uh, but what else were we doing kind of with Pluto and Capricorn? And then what can we expect when Pluto finally moves into Aquarius?
My sense is that the biggest shift, you're starting to see it already, is that the public, and it's probably not just here, I bet it's going to show up everywhere. The public is moving away from the top down, especially the fascist thing. That's Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto going into Aquarius, that's the sign of the people. That's why all of a sudden unions have become popular.
Mm,
Now, people are saying 70% of Americans are saying, of course, the car workers should get paid something reasonable in alignment with the fact that the bosses made a lot of money. That's only fair. Then you now are seeing other strikes. Isn't there another strike that just started? I think I heard somewhere
oh,
some
the
important
nurses.
strike.
Yeah, the nurses at Kaiser are on strike now.
Exactly. So this is, I think, it'll spread more and more, and it's the total opposite of the fascist top down. That's what Capricorn can do. It's why it's no longer fertile ground for people like Trump, and really the four worst out there would be Trump, Putin, Bols. Who am I thinking of here? there are four. Well, there's Netanyahu. He's a
Mm,
bit of a problem as well,
is.
and also Xi Jinping. Basically, China, Russia. Trump is just in there with them. There's also people like Kim Jong Un, but he's not really that important in terms of world power. It has to do with Putin's attitude, Xi Jinping's attitude, and then Trump, and to some extent Netanyahu. But I don't think it's fertile ground. I think it's starting to move away from them.
Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
tell. I mean, people are going on about Trump. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. Would you want to be charged with 21 felony counts? That is not cool. That is very risky territory.
You
And
know,
now, how does he prevent them from taking all his money?
right? He
You know?
can't. He absolutely can't.
No.
I did a reading on Trump yesterday that's going to be out later. It's one of my little, I'm doing these little mini readings. You know what? Came in the reading because we're all saying, I don't see jail time. I don't see jail time. I don't see jail time. This is just totally an aside, but I think he's going to get any sentence commuted or possibly any conviction overturned or pardoned.
He's going to get any sentence commuted?
I think he is.
Like
I
all of
think
them.
I
Like
think
all of
because
them.
I saw his cards yesterday, the cards, and he keeps showing me partnership, partnership, partnership. I think this guy is knows he's going to be convicted and is now looking for the next out. He's already steps ahead. He knows he's going to be convicted, and now he's looking for, okay, can I get it commuted? Can I get it pardoned? Can I get it? Can I get it overturned? That's where he's looking now, which is really interesting. And I think with Pluto moving into Aquarius, I don't know that that's going to play out for him, but that's what he's going to attempt.
Well, it's anything is possible. I'll just say this: when I look at a person's situation, meaning his, what's happening, what's coming up, and I see the astrology, I would not want to be in his shoes in 2024.
No.
That is a really risky situation. Possibly the worst is his health, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a moment there as we move into the spring and summer. That is risky stuff, and including that. One of the interesting patterns is, speaking of Neptune, is that Neptune is the one player that has been helping his popularity. Neptune is very good when it lines up and trine to your planets. People go along with you. It's almost like a wave energy for whatever the reason, right? But that starts to shift in the spring and moves into a much more problematic place and moves away from that, easy support pattern. Now, what that is, I don't know 100% yet. I just wouldn't want to be in his shoes. And so maybe he gets committed. I don't know. I don't see how, but possibly. I mean, anything is possible because, like we were saying, right, in a country where I mean, democracy in a lot of ways has gone really soft, to allow someone like this to say the things he says outside the courtroom. I mean, it's just a total travesty that you can say the judge in this case is working for the Democrats. Well, I mean, if that's true, then basically anything goes. It's just so shameful, that something doesn't stop, that there's no rule that says you can't do that. You can't be talking like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible. Perhaps because the presidency is so revered, maybe they don't want to throw the president in jail like he deserves. But the thing is, what's the final outcome, though? I just don't see a good outcome for this guy.
Oh,
I
I
don't
don't
see
either.
it. No, so like for instance, I'd be perfectly fine if he's not thrown in the slammer like he deserves, but break his back, basically bankrupt him, take
I think
away
they're
all his
going to.
resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then, yeah, even though people are saying, no, he should be in jail and he should be hanging from a tree and all that. No, I don't. As long as you get rid of the guy so that society realizes this is not a trip we're going to endorse,
Hmm.
right? Because you can't endorse this kind of garbage. It's just awful, awful that he's gotten this far.
It really is. It's sort of shocking. To be honest, it's sort of shocking that he managed it. And there's still so many people. I want to talk about Neptune and Pisces, actually, but because I wonder how does that affect? You already kind of alluded to it, but how does that? These people look at him and they go, "Oh, he's like, how do they not see it? How do they not see it? Oh, he's the greatest. He's so rich. He's so smart. He's gonna lead us to freedom, whatever the hell that means to these people. Like that like how do they not see it when it's so blatant?
Well, I think that in part you have to look at all the forces. Part of the Neptune problem being in Pisces is that it has facilitated the ascent of disinformation news. So you've got an entire section of the news. Like a lot of these guys, they don't watch CNN and MSNBC. To them, that sucks because why? Because that's the truth. People ask me, well, Trumpers especially, I always say to them, listen, you're not watching the real news. You insult my news, but my news, which is the accepted mainstream news, they tell you approximately what is going to happen. Your news makes stuff up. Then when it doesn't happen, then you complain that there's a conspiracy. There's no conspiracy. You're just watching fake news, So it's great for you to call mainstream news fake news, but it isn't. But the thing is, it accomplishes the task in keeping this entire group thinking there's a conspiracy, they're all out to get us. And so they keep backing the guy. And the other side is, it's kind of racial in that if you look like, why are they all so angry? It reflects the planets where they were during the Civil War. It's the same theme. It's the same garbage. Back in the Civil War, they literally wanted to maintain slavery because it was good business. And they went to war. Now it's a different kind of war, but it's sort of similar. They're saying, white privilege, aggrieved mentality, like the idea that it's all the fault of the immigrants, the fault of Asians, the fault of African Americans. No, it's not. I mean, I thought that Republicans said everybody should just pull themselves up and do what they need to do. Like, what's your excuse? You're telling me that being white is a problem? Why? How? It makes no sense, But they play on that. And is it surprising that most of them are the less educated? I mean, because why? Because they're not thinking clearly. Yeah, that's why. And why is it that a lot of pundits say Trump's chances of winning are so low? Because people that are educated living in the suburbs, they put thumbs down on Trump. They say, no way I'm going to back this guy. He's an idiot. So that's why, right? But in the meantime, it's close. Unfortunately, if you could say, hey, it's 80-20, who cares? It's not. It's 53, 52, 40. So, it scares you because you're kind of going, well, what if no labels or some crazy thing gets in there? Yeah, of course. It means we're going in there, with we hold the better cards, but it's not like it's a slaughter. It's close, it's close. So, yeah. I don't know if that answers the question on Neptune and Pisces, but
I like it.
mean,
I like the answer.
Because see, this is the thing. Planets, they don't just do one thing. They do a range
Right.
from very good to awful. And so the rise of YouTube, which has been the rise of available information, that's Neptune and Pisces. That's great, right? It's fabulous that I love that I can find information now that I used to have to dig into, cult shops. I mean, it was really hard. Now it's out there. But then if you land on the wrong channel, what are you liable to hear? Crazy stuff that is completely made up,
Yep.
People whispering because they know that YouTube doesn't like it when you mention attacks on Biden or on vaccines or whatever, right? Immediately, they're careful and so forth, but yet they're still there, they're still, promoting their message. So it's like that. So, I mean, I guess the long and the short of it is that this is what we're heading into, that 2025, Pluto is in Aquarius. Finally, that's a big change because that's a planet that has been in a different sign for many years, 17 years. Neptune in Pisces, already in 25, makes somewhat of an exit fully in 26. Then you get Uranus getting out of Taurus and going into Gemini in 2026. That's another big change. And Uranus in Gemini is pretty turbulent. That's why I keep saying now, don't expect to win the election and then everything will just be perfect. No, that's highly unlikely because Uranus, go back to the last cycles. In the time in Gemini was the Second World War. That was not easy. The time before that was the American Civil War. Problematic. The time before that, America was formed. America was not formed easily. America was formed under duress. There was a fight. There was a revolution. So, and the thing with Uranus is that Uranus is the planet that, in a sense, very real sense, liberated humanity because it's the ruler of technology. And for all the complaints you can have about technology, a lot of things you take for granted, right? Everything from turning on the light switch to your cell phone to all kinds of things, right? But it's a planet that when it's in that original spot, it was discovered in Gemini. Uranus was discovered in the next sign. So it pushes society into a new direction. But the thing to realize is that they're all good changes. They're all forward movement
Mhm.
periods. It's just that you have to go through the period. It's like being in a car and you've got to put on your seatbelt because it gets really bumpy, type thing. That's what it is. So as long as you hold firm and wait it out, then it's okay. But yeah, it'd be better if we didn't have to go through the pain of it and the discord and everything else. But what can you do? I mean, there are a lot of forces on the planet right now that destabilize, like climate change, a lot of immigration from places where part of it is climate change, part of it is regimes and so forth. So it makes it hard. So you get a lot of resentments and problems in different places. That's why the world is in chaos at the moment. But to me, have faith, hang in there, because every single time we get through the thing and then the good side wins, or
Right. It evens
the
out.
majority wins. Yeah,
It's
that's
true.
that's the idea.
It's
Yeah.
true. So I'm curious. I know I'm under a Uranus opposition. It's so fun. It's super fun.
Really?
Can't wait for this thing to get out of Taurus. I'm like, come on and move, come on and move. It's coming. It's coming up on my sun in a little bit, I think. But I have 4 planets in Scorpio, so it's just been the whole time.
Yeah, when yours gets out, yeah, that's the thing that it has to get through.
Yeah.
You have stuff late in Taurus or late in Scorpio?
My
Is
sun
that what you're
is
saying?
at 23 degrees.
Yeah, okay. So your sun is directly in the path, because Uranus in the path of it, it did a station in late August directly opposite the
Hmm.
sun, and it still has to go through there next year, right? But on the other hand, having Uranus like that is really great for raising your awareness of all kinds of things. Uranus is an awakener, so it either brings in new thoughts where you go, "Wow, this I never thought of this like this before," new understandings, or you put together things that you thought you understood and you learn them in a new way. So Uranus can really liberate you. But yeah, when it's opposed, it's at a bit of a cost, because the oppositions can also bring in sudden shocks that you weren't expecting. Something where a person might turn away from you, unexpectedly because it's an opposition. Things like that, or yeah, just the shock of it it makes it harder. Let's just say that, right?
It's interesting for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk tech. Let's talk AI. Everybody's freaking out about AI. We see that Pluto is moving into Aquarius, which, that is tech. And then, of course, we're going to have Uranus move. But what do you see? What do you see coming astrologically? I mean, are we going to be living in like the Terminator movies? Like, what do you think is going to happen when Pluto moves into Aquarius with tech?
Well, Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini, the two of them together, especially first uh, close to a decade, because Pluto goes in 25, Uranus in 26. Uranus is in Gemini till 2033, and it's a pretty big
Mhm.
span of time. That's high tech. Thing is, you can say, well, they're going to create all kinds of fake things. Yeah, but usually you get counterpoints to that. You get other AI that monitors that AI. It's again, is do you have faith in the overall system to protect itself, to bring in new safeguards and so forth? I do. I feel like AI, like one person said, we're already in AI. There are lots of things that are being run by AI
Oh
already.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
accelerates. Right, but I mean, one of the things I think could be really helpful would be that, because Neptune and Pisces, it's kind of like the era of the liars. People that are just making stuff up. That getting out of there could bring in a social attitude that frowns on lying and starts to say, no,
Mhm.
but you got to tell the truth. And you will be ostracized if you make up lies. It has to be part of the system, because during these years, it's almost rewarded. If someone is a big fat liar, oh yeah, this is good. Look at this person, how clever. This is really bad because it undermines society. So Neptune getting out of Pisces could be helpful that way to, bring in new safeguards. Then you can protect from AI or whatever, TikTok, all these things where people are manipulating information to influence other people, and it's obviously not a good thing.
It's
So,
yeah.
but
Well,
overall, you know, I
yeah,
welcome it, because to me,
yeah.
technology can be liberating if you use it properly.
I agree completely. I am a huge fan of Chat GPT. I love it. I love it. It helps me edit. It helps me do a lot of stuff. I'm very happy with it, I have to say. I keep getting on there and asking it if it's self-aware, and it keeps telling me no, and then I ask it if it's lying. I mean, just I just get silly with it. I just get silly with it. And my nephew freaks out. Auntie, don't ask it that. One day it's gonna say yes. Like freaked out.
Right.
Don't stop asking if it's self-aware. One day it'll answer yes. He's all, it's so cute. But so we're moving towards, I think we see it with the unions. We see it, well, I'm wondering too, is this, do you think, just speculation? I love speculating, but do you think it's going to really enhance the Democratic platform? Because, I mean, technically, we do see that Democrats usually lean towards, I mean, I don't like any politicians or any parties, but I am a Democrat by default. But do you think it's going to push the Democratic platform and Democratic people into a better position and possibly move out these Trumpist, white evangelical politicians? Because I mean, moving into Aries, everything moving into Aquarius, moving into Aries, it's such a shift. It's such a huge shift. I mean, these are massively different signs from the signs that they were in. What do you think? Do you think it's going to elevate? Because Democrats are more for the people. Oh my God, do you think we're going to get universal health care in the US? Oh, I'd die. Tell me.
Well, I would say so, just not right away. You have to get through it. The 2020s are probably in history will be the decade when the turn is made in that direction, but at the cost of quite a bit of unrest. I don't think the MAGA people are going to be happy losing, being constantly, in the back seat, so to speak. They're not getting the results because they don't have the numbers. It is going in that direction. It's just that not right away, in fits and starts, but it is going in that direction for sure. Universal healthcare, yes, except how universal. There's always a big fight around how much you give and so forth. Same with women's rights. That's going in that direction as well. It's just that, as you see, I mean, right now we're in the middle of it. It's stuck. Their rights have been diminished temporarily, at least. It will be solved, but it'll take some time. I think with gun control too, the Saturn in Aries. This is something astrologer Patrick Watson pointed out, that Saturn, when it's in Aries, correlates with gun control legislation.
It sure
And
does.
that tells you, if Saturn is in Aries in 2025, how are you going to have a Republican administration? They'll never put in gun control legislation. That has to be a Democratic initiative, as an example, right? Of how you can correlate planets that way. And so, yes, it's going that way, just not like at the snap of your
Right,
fingers,
right.
because there are a
These
lot
are
of,
very long
you know,
transits. I mean, these are long.
yeah, yeah, they take a while, and you get incremental results. But people have to be smart, particularly on the Democratic side. When you hold the majority, realize that for lots of things, it's the only party that will help you. Don't talk about Biden being too old and inane stuff that makes no sense. Whoever is there, you vote for them. For example, look at Biden. He's still trying to help out the student loan situation. He just passed the thing,
Yes,
even
we
though the
did.
Supreme Court stopped the big package. He's still working in there. Do you think that Republicans will do that for you? No, they won't. They'll never do that. So realize what you're playing with and vote in your best interest.
Yeah.
That's the logic. Don't tell me, oh, Biden is too old. If he's too old, how come he keeps outsmarting the younger crowd every single time? There's McCarthy, who is decades younger. He took his lunch. It's true, basically. That's the truth. That's why the MAGA people are mad at him. So Joe seems to be walking around apparently in cognitive decline. Anytime something important happens, whatever he decides, more or less, right, takes place. That should
Yeah.
make you suspicious.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I listen. I don't think
Yeah.
Joe's in. I don't think he has dementia, and I don't think he's in cognitive. First of all, the guy has a stutter, and people don't seem to want to acknowledge it. So he's not a great speaker. I mean, to be fair, Joe Biden is not. He's not Obama. He doesn't get up there and give these great speeches. He's not great at it. But
No.
do I see it as a sign of dementia? Absolutely not. I don't. And it's never been in his cards. It's never been in his cards. I mean, you get old, you forget shit. I'm 40 and I forget shit, so like I can't imagine what I'm going to forget when I'm Joe's age. But that doesn't mean that he's got
No.
dementia.
No. And I also have been looking at his chart, and a couple of things. One is that he's got plenty. Remember, I mentioned Neptune. He's got plenty of Neptune going into next year. And one of the suspicious things that I see is that he's been going through this period, which lasts until about the spring of next year, where the age factor is a big problem because Saturn has been stressing. And when you're 80 years old, if Saturn is challenging you, a favorite attack would be you're too old because it's the planet of old age. But as Saturn moves forward in 2024, it becomes a major asset for him. So it's no longer a problem. And the Neptune protects his popularity enough to, make him a very strong candidate going into 2024. So no worries there. That tends to shift. Now, as to why, I don't know 100%. Things have a way of going in directions and so forth, but it's there in his planet, So, by the way, there's also Kamala. She's part of the ticket. And again, people will say, oh, Kamala, no, nobody likes Kamala. Kamala's really strong. I mean, people underestimate Kamala a lot. One of the ways you know she's strong is whenever she does a rally, she gets tons of people, using the Trumpian model of popularity. That's why Trump has often said he's kind of impressed with Kamala because with him, if there's a crowd,
Yeah.
I think Trump's secret is that he read Mein Kampf. He wants to be like Hitler.
Yeah.
Hitler would attract these big crowds, and to Trump, having many people, adoring you is the secret to life. Right? Never mind that, he should look at it and say, well, but how did it turn out for Hitler?
Right.
It didn't turn out so well. I mean, what is the point of having a great plan if you end up with a bullet in your head? I don't understand that. You got to look at the whole thing, right? And realize it's like you can't have one without the other. It's too extreme. So, anyways, I don't know where we went with that, but
It's fine.
that's the panorama as I see it.
I like to meander. One more thing I want to ask you. This is so my brother is he's extreme like I am. So he's here in the Bay Area we've had just robbery. I mean everybody's robbing everybody. They've closed a bunch of stores. Target is closing 3 stores. Starbucks is closing stores because they're getting robbed. There was one Target out here where you walked in the store and literally every single shelf was behind glass because people were just running in and stealing stuff. We're seeing desperate wealth inequality, just terrible. And my brother was here this last weekend and he goes, we're headed towards a revolution. He's a Gemini, but he's going, we're headed towards a revolution. I know it. There's no way we can maintain this. People are getting sick and tired of the wealth having, the top 1% having all the money, and you can see it. You can see people are getting sick of it. You see it with the strikes. You see it with the theft. He's convinced. What did he say? He said, I'm not going to be satisfied until we're dragging Bezos through the streets like Gaddafi, is what he said. But do you think we're headed towards that, where these billionaires are going to fall, not be revered as much?
Yes, I think they're going to be cut back substantially. Yes, because that would be the trend going, toward Pluto and Aquarius. That's the trend with that. Much more so, in that you have to balance the wealth. However, when you talk revolution, you always have to ask the person, okay, how exactly does that work? This was how I criticized Russell Brand in a video that I did because he just throws spaghetti at the wall. Oh, pharma's bad. This is bad. That's bad. What's the plan, man? What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to send an army somewhere? How does this work? So you do it through voting and you do it through government policies that move it in that direction. Anything else is a war. You don't want that. Then you'd be people shooting at each other on the streets. Revolution has to be a soft revolution or we're all in a lot of trouble, because that creates chaos. That's how you get fascists, taking over.
Yeah.
But the territory is not fertile for that. It's more fertile for going the other way. There's also another thing that is very curious. When you look at the Saturn cycles going back more than 100 years, Saturn does 30-year loops, right? Mm-hmm. And every time it's been in this region of Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, you have progressive administrations. That's another clue, right? That it's not fertile ground for this kind of talk of, Bezos is going to take over, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is another one, right? And you see with these guys, when they get on the wrong side of the democracy, because what Musk is doing is, he's now on the 40%. He thinks he's a genius. He's going to back the 40%. But in 2025, when Saturn enters Aries, he's a Cancer, it's going to come in and hit him because that's the group saying, no, we don't like this, you know? So it's good to get on the right side of the cycles where people are. And if it's so bad that you just cannot stomach it, then leave. Go and become a hermit. But don't get on the wrong side of it because then society will turn on you, you know? It's that simple. Like if you think, well, this whole thing with Democrats, they're communists, you know? If you say balance the wealth, well, that's what communists do. Well, then, but what do you guys do? You guys are like oligarchs, right? You want the wealth all at the top, right? And by the way, these are geniuses. These people are geniuses. They use their money to tell the people that have no money that this is the way to do it. And they never give them any of the money. They keep it all for themselves. That should be the clue, you know, like why would you ever vote for a Republican if you're in the middle class? In any place, anywhere. It is the stupidest, dumbest move.
Yep.
You're never going to get anything out of that. So, but they still do it.
They
Because
still
they
do
tell
it.
them a story. Yeah, exactly.
It's insane to me. I know my mom has friends that were Democrats, but they voted for Trump both times he ran because they wanted him. They didn't like abortion and they wanted him to outlaw it. And they figured, if he gets elected, so they were just voting on the one single issue. And I was vindictive. I was like, Mom, you can't hang out with those people anymore. Obviously, she doesn't listen to me because, you know, I just say things. But but I was like, are you kidding me? That they really did that. They actually voted for Trump because they wanted him to outlaw abortion, even though he was awful. He's fascist. He's this. He's that. They did not care. And I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people have I want to keep my guns, so I'm going to keep voting for Republicans, even though, you know, I have diabetes and I can't get medical care and I'm paying, you know, $800 a month for my insulin and all this. They don't care. I want to keep my guns, so I'm going to keep voting over here. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's sad. It's totally sad. And the thing is, the part that burns me often is when you see boomers I'm a boomer. And you know, I've said this on my channel, and then I got attacked for you're attacking the boomer. I'm not attacking all the boomers. I'm attacking the bad boomers. There are good boomers and bad boomers. But the reason I attack is I expect someone, you know, when you reach the last third of your life, what you haven't figured it out. You can't look at a person and understand. You
Right.
can't see a crook in front of you.
Right.
How can you not know? Most Democrats, most of them, not Menendez. I get it. I know. When you start having gold bars and 500K, that guy's a crook too. There are going to be some crooks like that are Democrats. But by and large, most of the crooks, nearly all the crooks, are Republicans. Also the liars. You know, these guys in the House. Scalise is a liar. I've seen him. He basically makes up stuff. Kevin McCarthy's another liar. Jim Jordan is a massive liar. They're not, if you look at the Democratic Party, no, by and large, they're educated people who are trying to help the country. That's the truth. Don't call them communists. They're just decent public servants. That's what they're there for, right? So how can you not figure that out? I can understand if you're 20, 30, maybe even 40, but at a certain point, it should be obvious to you. That's what intuition is. You size up a person. Trump is basically an effing crook. He's just a lying sleazebag. There's nothing more there. But the thing is, you know, if you're captured by his charisma speech patterns, which are basically a lot of word salad, well, then I can't help you. How can you not figure it out, right? So that's where we're at, and it's a sad situation. But you know, time keeps moving forward, and there are less of those voters, and then that'll probably help. You know, that's the logic. And problem is that it takes time. My feeling is that we're looking at least till the 2 more election cycles, like till 28 or so minimum, before it starts to abate. In 25, if anything, to me it feels tense. You know, it feels like a tense situation, but that's in a way another clue, because if you think about it, when Republicans win, Democrats don't, you know, make as much noise.
That's true.
It's when Republicans lose, then you get, you know, it was rigged, it was you know, cheating, and they take it to court. Now, luckily too, isn't it true too that by and large the courts have said no? The courts keep saying no, 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 including, you know, the Supreme Court is 6-3. I know it was a scam. This was the way they played it.
Yep.
And yet, okay, I mean, I'm looking at this thing with the pills, the abortion pills and things like that. I think the Supreme Court probably realizes, you know, all of them in there, who knows, maybe it's Kavanaugh and whatever, the group, that if they keep pushing too far into the minority, because, when you start legislating for the 30%, I mean, what kind of a democracy is that?
Right.
You're putting your own situation at risk. And, if you're on the Supreme Court, why would you back a guy like Trump? He's a lawless imbecile who puts you at risk. If you put him in there, he's likely to harm you. So there are all sorts of reasons to be optimistic and hang in there and, wait it out. I mean, even in the current situation, look at the situation we're in. Women, right? Women are in a tough spot. But even now, you can still figure it out if you're determined as a woman. It's not like the entire country is turned into,
Right.
the Gulag archipelago. It's just more complicated. But my feeling is it improves, giving it time. You just gotta be patient and hold out, and yeah, that's the bottom line.
Okay, I have one more question, which I did not pre-give you, but I'm curious. So Lilith is moving. That's an asteroid, right? Lilith.
I don't. I see Lilith in some apps, and then I know it's an option in my program.
Yeah.
I've never used Lilith. Like, there's a point where it's like asteroids. If you put all the asteroids in a chart, and then if you start adding midpoints,
Right.
you can't even look at the chart. You kind of go,
It gets
wow.
crazy.
In fact, if you start looking too much, you'll just find problems, problem after problem after problem. So, I guess I could read up on it a little bit. I looked at my own. Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
find it. But anyway, what are you going to say though? What
Well,
was
it's
the
well,
question?
all these astrologers are making this big noise. Oh, Lilith's moving into Virgo, and that's going to be this it's basically Lilith's moving into Virgo, and it's going to start messing with Saturn, and it's the rise of the feminine and all this stuff, and you're going to see more assaults, you're going to see more you're going to see more Russell Brand stuff, but it's supposed to supposedly facilitate the rise of women, which for me, I'm not an astrologer, obviously we know this, but how much
You're
damage can
actually
an
pretty good.
asteroid?
You've tuned in a lot
Thank
since I
you.
talked with you. You were correlating stuff, and that was really impressive. So good
Thank you.
work,
Thank you. Thank you.
in my opinion. You,
Um,
you could tell
how
that Saturn was building.
how much can an asteroid really do though? And this is like my point is they're making it, oh, Lilith, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. And I'm kind of like,
No,
but it's still an asteroid. I mean, it's not a
not
major
much.
planet.
No, I don't think much. The way I look at it, if you are talking about the rise of women and the pushback against this ultra male, the alpha male dominance.
Mm.
If you're thinking alpha male, that's Pluto. If you're thinking women warrioress, that's Eris. Pretty obviously, the planet that displaced Pluto. Because there are others. There's this Makemake and Haumea. There are all these bodies that are similar sized to Eris, but Eris was the one that was used as the logic for bumping Pluto. Eris is at odds with Pluto, and you can see that Eris is winning the battle. It's pretty obvious, right? I mean, one of the things that I often think about is, can you imagine if you had put the founders on a time machine and showed them 2023, and they were seeing all these African American women and prosecutors going after the white guy?
They wouldn't even
They
know
would
what
say,
they
"Wow, this country,
yeah.
this country has really progressed beyond anything we could have imagined." But it's fair. They're educated, intelligent women that are doing a really good job. That's the truth. So, that's Eris, by the way. That's Eris, and so yes, of course, you'll all be in the course of it injustices. For instance, the Russell Brand thing. The women are saying it happened. He's saying it didn't. You have to go through the whole process. I get that, but again, I wouldn't want to be in those men's shoes. Bad place to be. Ask Bill Cosby. He used to be this, by the way, he was taken down by Uranus in his chart. It's when Uranus came in, right? This is the way planets work. Like, you do something and then years might pass before it confronts you with the problem. It's the same logic why, for example, I just experienced this myself, right? So all of a sudden I had to pay a big bill in my car. I knew that this part was failing, but of course it happened. It was forcing me to do it was under Saturn comes in. Okay, now you got to fix it.
Yeah.
Now you take the bill. But Saturn would say, well, no, I mean, I'm just bringing it to the foreground. You knew that it was in the background, so now I'm bringing it in, right? And it's the same with any of the other planets. If you've been doing things, it's like, the logic with, I've said a lot of Geminis, you have Bill Barr, you have MTG, Trump, and then all of a sudden people say, oh, all the Geminis are bad. I'm a Gemini. No, you're not one of those Geminis. You're dealing with reasonable issues. If you haven't been robbing banks, why is the FBI going to come and look for you as a bank robber? You didn't do it, right? So your Saturn karma could be entirely different. There will be something, but it doesn't have to be so difficult, so onerous. Look at Giuliani as another example. Why is he in a lot of trouble? Because he's a drunk and he's already, quite crooked to begin with. And now he's facing the music, his body has been declining. He's probably another one that is in dementia. But it's because of things he did, not because his fate is out to get him.
Right.
His own actions, have been horrible for years and years and years. It's plain to see. Anyone can see it. It's on TV. But again, you have to assess it because there will be people. No, like one person said to me on one of my videos, Jim Jordan is a fine man. No, he's not. Jim Jordan is a crook. I'm sorry. Jim Jordan is a fine person. No, he's not. A good man, I think he said. Called me a traitor, immigrant, I don't know, some story.
Nice. Oh, people are so sweet, aren't they?
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're looking at it and thinking, no, I mean, look at this guy. We know his past history, you know what he's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And, yes, okay, by the way, I'm judging. It's true. Maybe astrology makes you extremely judgy. What else am I supposed to do? I got to judge the situation, right? By that logic, by the way, all judges are judgy, right? Because, when they're judging a case, oh, you're so judgmental. That's true. I'm a judge.
Yeah. Hey, you got to make the call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't like Neptune and Pisces, quite frankly, but I feel like that is what's been getting everybody so wishy-washy, where it's like, no, you can't say that anymore, and no, you can't judge, you can't be judgy, you can't do this, you can't. Like, I'm kind of waiting. I feel like it's a Neptune and Pisces thing, because Pisces to me is always very wishy-washy and doesn't really want to make a decision. And I love you, Pisces. Don't get me wrong, I love my Pisces, but it's kind of like, no, and how about over here, and how about over there, and they're just kind of going a little fish, and they're doing their thing, and I've noticed that is a massive trend where it's like, oh, you can't say that anymore. You can't say that Jim Jordan is a bad person. You can't say that Russell Brand did it. You can't say any of these things because we just, and you're being judgmental and we don't know. And this is just a rant that I'm going on now, but I'm over it. I'm so over it.
Well, it's true. It's true. And it really, the thing is, though, is to always do your best to get on the harmonious side of planets. Mm-hmm. Neptune is the most spiritual planet. Mm-hmm. So Neptune is also great for projecting yourself. Like what we're doing here is a Neptune something. The Uranus is the electricity that powers it, but the fact that there are images and projections, that's Neptune. So Neptune and people that are in film, any kind of documentary you watch is also Neptune. So the idea of using it as a medium for something harmonious, that option is always there. Mm-hmm. But if you go down the route, for example, Neptune is also escapism, and right away you see alcohol, drugs. That's not good. Sooner or later you will pay the price. Ask Rudy. It's how it is. That's why he is where he is now, where he's broke and slurring his words on podcasts and all the rest, and not to mention that he's in the middle of court cases, can't even pay his lawyer. That's the decline.
Did you see that the second lawyer now quit because he couldn't pay him?
Yeah, right. Yeah. You could see this coming in other words, if I were his astrologer back then, I would have said, well, Rudy, all I can tell you is that the planets get pretty rough after the election. Can you put two and two together here? What does this mean? Do you want to go this route? But then that's the thing. People in those positions seldom listen. They're on a track and they just keep going and going. It's like life has to stop them because common sense and any kind of good advice will never work. They've committed themselves and they keep going. But it's because of using planets in a way that is not harmonious. If you do it in Neptune for anything around growing spiritually, growing in greater awareness. Fabulous planet,
Mhm.
fabulous, right? But once you start getting slippery and going down that route, you might do okay for a while. For a while, it'll help you, but then eventually, it comes back to haunt you. So
Yeah, like Trump.
yeah, like Trump. Yeah, like Trump is an example. I mean, I I still say. I mean, think about Trump. If you showed him the future 8 years from, like back in 2016, I think he would have been pretty mortified to think, what? I'm going to be charged with 91 felony counts. Holy Lord. Like, by the way, I often think, I've said this in other videos, that people say Biden is in decline. I think it's Trump that is in decline. Trump is the one that has a more impending dementia. I'm nearly sure he's way too crafty. If you go back to the Trump 20 years ago, he would never have done all this stuff the way he's doing
He's
it. It's completely
crazy.
reckless. It's
Uh-huh.
totally, I mean, anyone would say, are you crazy? This is too much. You set up too many problems here.
Yep.
And, and I mean, the whole idea, what he did with, well, okay, in part, this thing with the records, thing with Trump is that because he's ruled by his ego, by his head, if you give him a presidential position, his head gets so big, he does think that they're his records. I think he thinks that. They're not, but,
Right. He thinks
in
that.
other words,
Trump, he is
yeah,
the
it's almost like you're
epitome
encouraging.
of if you give a mouse a cookie. I don't know if you know this book, but if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. I mean, that's Trump. We gave him a cookie and then,
Yeah,
we gave him the
yeah,
TV show
yeah,
and then it was like, well, you know what? I think I'm going to have a political career. He is if you give a mouse a
exactly,
cookie. But, and I think to
exactly.
myself, this man, I think you're right with the cognitive thing because if he had just kept his mouth shut and had his little TV show and didn't do all this other shit, he would
Yeah,
have gotten away with
right,
all of it. All of his criming, all of the
exactly.
money stuff, the mafia stuff, the Russian mafia, all this shit that he was into, he would have kept his money, he would have kept his business, he could have kept on doing his crimes, and nobody would have noticed or given a shit.
Yeah, well, it's true. I remember the image I got back then was of someone that, like, well, two things. One is like the flying too close to the sun, Icarus, like, in
Mm-hmm.
other words, going beyond your capabilities. And the idea of a bird on a perch. Once you're on the perch, people try to take you down. Politics is like that. No matter how good you are, you expose yourself to lots and lots of attacks. So if you are a crook, which he is, but this is the thing, right? He's also in a certain sense quite delusional. So he's going to tell himself, no, no, I'm an honest man. He keeps saying
Mm-hmm.
that. He keeps calling people dishonest. And I'm thinking, really? The pot calling the kettle black? Like, I mean, in a really
Projection.
extreme way. You're a total
Mm-hmm.
crook. And he kind of knows he is because if you hear his language patterns, he's constantly using the words that label him. Like,
Yes.
for instance, he uses the word fake a lot, the word scam, the word dishonest to paint other people. They're the three perfect words for you. You're mendacious, dishonest, you're a scammer and a faker. That's what he does all day long, right? So then he has to say the Biden crime family is corrupt to shift it in that direction. It's
Right.
almost a necessary reflex to survive when you're as corrupt as he is. But anyway, bottom line, he's a great example of massive, massive misuse of Neptune. And he's not a drinker, so he's not doing it that way. But I'm almost sure that he's using some kind of upper, I think, Adderall, or there's something in there. There's a speed component. And then
Yeah.
he gets those moments when all of a sudden he's probably on the down cycle of the drug. And you see him in a rally and he starts slurring his words. He starts
Mm-hmm.
saying that uh, we're going into World War II, that he defeated Obama in 2016. I mean, bizarro stuff where you think, man, your brain is shut off there. That could be partly dementia, but it's also partly the drug cycle. Either way, the Neptune in his chart is just horribly misused. But it's
Mm-hmm.
always been this way. You can go back to whenever. He's been a liar and a crook since the 80s, probably even before that. That's what his father taught him, and I think his genes responded. I mean, it's like it. You need like a resonance because his brother apparently was not attuned to his father. The brother that died and all that was
Mm-hmm.
not tuned in. Kind of like how Rupert Murdoch has that son that is really conservative, and the other son hates the whole
Yep.
the whole thing. So it's not
Yep.
always like you spawn replicas of yourself, but the odds of there being one at least
Right.
are
Right.
there.
Yeah.
We know what Trump's daddy was up to. So
Absolutely. Well, and then Trump hooks up with Roy Cohn, and I think it just spiraled out from there because that was his big mentor, and that guy was a massive crook, massive.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and by the way, that's a great example of astrology. So Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it has the potential. It's the most spiritual sign. That's why Pisces tend to be more otherworldly, artistic, and then very spiritual. But it's also the final journey. Starting at Aries, you finish in Pisces. So the thing is that sign is both monasteries and prisons. Because if you've been living your life like a criminal, then you get put in the slammer, right? And Roy Cohn was a Pisces. That's like, okay, and by the way, if you say, well, Pisces, they're the fishes. Well, have you heard of sharks? And there you go. That's what it is, right? But not all fishes are kind. In fact, there are whales that apparently kill for sport.
Yes.
So it's not like in the ocean. They're all little fishies, kind of. No. Hold on. There are some good ones and some not so good ones. It's like that, right? So people like Roy Cohn, they're predators. They're expressing that particular angle on it, even though it's the potential to be the most spiritual sign. So then it goes into the deception and the delusion and the negative patterns in Pisces. But again, if you're a Pisces hearing this, just be a good Pisces. It's not hard, right?
Right.
Go the way. By good, I mean harmonious.
Right.
Align yourself with people, right? The sort of the notion that the golden rule. How if you think of Christianity, which is what these people now are not respecting, isn't it the idea that do unto others as you would want them to do unto you, the golden rule, right? But that's the logic that we're all one being, instead of thinking you're a separate island unto yourself and you can just run up all the time. That'll work for a while, but not eventually. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work well.
It doesn't.
Keep it up, you'll pay the price. Not only that, but you'll be really unhappy too. So yeah.
Agree completely. And you know what? I want to leave it on that note because I think that's a good place
All right.
to end. So thank you
Yes.
so much, Andre, for being here.
As
Thank you
usual,
guys
that was a
for
lot of
watching.
fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to the next one. That was great.
Yes. So you guys, just in case you've never seen Andre before, which I'm sure you have, but in case you haven't, I will have all his information somewhere where you need to see it because this is going to be on multiple platforms. But if you go to my bio, you can find it. If you go to the box, you can find it. Andre's Astrology Alert. That is the name of his. What's this? Is that the name of the company or just the show or just kind of the overarching? That's
just the channel.
The channel.
Just the
Okay.
channel.
Andre's Astrology Alert on YouTube. You do private readings, yes?
I do, yeah. And when I do people's charts, I use somewhat the same approach around looking at what cycles are there, how can you use them in the best possible way to, in a sense, you could say move the universe that way, or you could say align yourself with the universe that way. But this is from the sense that 80% or more of what happens to us is because we're doing things and then the planets come back with a result. So the whole idea is to do it better, figure out how to use Saturn better, figure out how to use Mars better, Jupiter. All of them have high end and low end. You got to become aware of what the high end is and what the low end is. And if you start living that way, your fate changes. Literally, it starts to unfold in a different way. Even if, yes, there will always be some events that you can't help. Of course, there are certain things, but they're the lesser by far. So that's the logic.
I love that.
In astrology has the word logic kind of in there, so you need to.
It really does. It really does.
Astrological.
It really does. So Andre, you guys can book with Andre if you go to what website will they? How do they?
Yeah,
book?
just Astrology Alert. If you go to Astrology Alert and you go to the about, what it describes, what it is, in there you'll see a link to my website, and then.
Perfect. And I'll put the
can figure it
website
out.
below. So if you guys want to book with him, listen, I've had a reading. I had more than one, but I know I've had readings with Andre. He's really good. He's really, really good. I got to get him on my website. I just haven't done it yet, but he's going to be going up as a preferred practitioner. He's very thorough. He explains things really, really well. And I mean, as you know, you watch him on the channel, so you know he does. But when he starts to talk about your personal chart, what I really love about working with Andre is that he will look ahead and go, okay, so right here, this is what you have to pay attention to. I mean, he just said this to me. We did a collab the other day, and he goes, wait, hold on, let me pull up your chart because he guys asked me about my diet. How are you eating? And so, okay, well, you got this thing going on over here, and so you better clean up that diet, girl, which I did. Because I went a little crazy after I got out of the hospital. After they were like, after a few months, they said I could eat normal food, and I was like, I'm gonna eat every possible thing that I was denied while I was ill. And Andre goes, okay, that's enough now. You have to be done now. So you guys,
Military revenge.
you guys can find him where you need to find him. Like I said, if you're on YouTube, look in the box. If you are on any other platform, you will find links in my bio. Highly recommend. Thank you so much for being here, Andre. I appreciate you very much, and that was a blast.
It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. That was nice.